here. Today is looking at the reading set for Christ the King, the end of the Christian year. And you'll see the readings bring us to consider the end of Jesus, of his suffering and his death. And like the readings we've been looking at over the last little while from Mark's Gospel, we can see that this ending, this suffering, this disruption, horror and breaking is going to result in a new approach. And we will move soon into Advent when we begin to look forward to the coming of the King as a child in Bethlehem. This is a long gospel set, John chapter 18 verses 1 through the entire chapter into chapter 19 verse 42. So an account of Jesus' interrogation, his sentencing, his suffering and torture, and finally his crucifixion, death and burial. This is the perfect way, the King we follow. It's not an account of a triumphal battle aftermath with some great arch built, the defeated dragged behind a victorious army. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, he entered on a borrowed colt, on a donkey. Had a lot of resonance with King David, but it certainly wasn't triumphant, powerful in the normal way of things then or now. So we can move our eyes from that image of kingship to this one. Pilate asks him, "So you are a king?" And Jesus said, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." So this is a sort of a kingship, a reign of truth rather than power or prestige or influence or control of any kind. And Pilate's response is very common in the culture we live in. What is truth? Your truth, my truth. The truth is relative. The sort of crazy illogic of postmodernism in the once it's got out of the intellectual hothouse of French academies. It's turned out to be entirely destructive of people, youth, children, families. It's a very negative view. Jesus, though, is crystal clear on the point. There is a truth, and he's come to testify to that. And we're now watching part of that testimony as he goes through this grueling, ugly, demeaning, painful public suffering. And so this can be ridiculed by putting a crown of thorns on and then a robe and mucking about generally to, what is that? Undermine, criticize, somehow devalue, somehow reverse the clarity about the truth into something muddy that we can dismiss. A lot of birth pains for this new life, this act of huge creativity, spacious, generous, graceful, is somehow dragged through everything ugly, fearful, awful, only to come out of the other side of it, finally, beautiful, intact, radiating hope and love. But today we must concentrate on the suffering, and Jesus' words in verse 30, "It is finished." So at the end of the year, we look closely at this man. We hear his teachings, but with no syrup laid over the top, just the teachings. The events we hear about in the Gospels, not in sepia tones, but with clarity. That these actions of a loving, strong, careful, caring, compassionate, uncompromising man of truth lead to this point, because he is up against those who would use the name of God, the idea of truth, or in our age perhaps the compromise of truth, for their own small, almost irrelevant gains and power. Here he is, our King, Christ the King. It's all so ugly, sad, and so completely comprehensible to every age of humans. And at the same time, so beautiful. So beautiful.